Listen, you're about to discover 15 gemstones that cultures worldwide have believed bring genuine luck and fortune for centuries, and I'm going to show you exactly where to find them, how to identify them in the field, and the specific techniques professional prospectors use to validate these stones without expensive equipment. I've spent years studying these stones in the field, and what most people don't know is that many of these luck-bringing gemstones are hiding in plain sight, waiting in locations you can legally access this weekend. Foundation section. For thousands of years, civilizations attributed specific powers to certain gemstones. When you're prospecting, these stones won't sparkle at you from creek beds. They'll look dull, covered in matrix material, coated in iron oxide. Each fortune stone forms under specific geological conditions, appearing in predictable environments. Let's start in good luck. The 15 fortune-bringing gemstones. Stone 1. Peridot, the Prosperity Stone. Peridot represents your introduction to fortune stones, teaching you about olivine minerals that ancient Egyptians called gems of the sun. This stone has been associated with prosperity, protection against nightmares, and attracting wealth for over 3,500 years. In the field, you're looking for olive green to yellowish-green crystals embedded in dark basalt or volcanic rock. The critical identifier is that characteristic oily or greasy luster when good light hits the surface. Peridot registers 6.5 to 7 on the Mohs hardness scale, meaning it scratches glass easily but won't be scratched by a steel file. The crystals are typically small, think rice grain to pea-sized, and rarely larger than a thumbnail. Fresh peridot has this distinctive bottle green color that doesn't change under different lighting, unlike many green minerals that shift appearance. The stone feels notably heavy for its size due to specific gravity of 3.2 to 3.4, significantly denser than quartz. Here's what most people don't know. Peridot often appears in gravels downstream from volcanic areas, already freed from its host rock by natural weathering. You'll recognize it by those glassy, somewhat rounded green crystals that catch light differently than surrounding pebbles. Unlike green glass or slag that beginners confuse with peridot, genuine specimens show that unmistakable greasy luster and never contain bubbles when examined closely. Stone 2. Tiger's Eye, the Protection Stone. Tiger's eye has been carried by Roman soldiers for protection and courage, used in African cultures to ward off curses, and valued in Asian traditions for bringing good fortune in business ventures. This stone's chatoyancy, that cat's eye effect, makes it unmistakable once you know what to look for. In its natural state, tiger's eye appears as dense, fibrous quartz with golden to brown bands running parallel through the stone. The key is recognizing that silky, shimmering quality even when the stone is dusty or weathered. Professional prospectors look for that characteristic banding pattern that resembles wood grain at first glance but with a definite shimmer. The stone has a hardness of 7 on the Mohs scale, identical to quartz, which makes sense because tiger's eye is essentially quartz that replaced fibrous crocydolite. The golden brown chatoyancy comes from iron oxide inclusions aligned in parallel fibers. When you rotate a piece of tiger's eye, you'll see a band of light move across the surface like a cat's eye, narrowing and widening. Here's the telltale sign that separates tiger's eye from similar-looking stones. That light band is always perpendicular to the fiber direction. If you find what looks like tiger's eye but the chatoyant band runs parallel to the fibers, you've got something else entirely. The stone should feel solid and heavy, with no soft or crumbly areas. True tiger's eye has been completely silicified, making it dense throughout. Fresh finds often have a dull brown exterior that hides the chatoyancy beneath. The secret is watching how light plays across the surface when you tilt the stone. Even through dirt and weathering, that characteristic shimmer reveals itself at certain angles. Stone 3. Black Obsidian, the Grounding Stone. Black obsidian has been used by indigenous cultures for spiritual protection, grounding negative energy, and creating powerful tools and weapons for over 10,000 years. Mesoamerican civilizations believed obsidian revealed truth and blocked spiritual attacks. Unlike crystalline gemstones, obsidian is volcanic glass, molten lava that cooled so rapidly it couldn't form crystals. In the field, you're looking for jet-black glassy material with conchoidal fracturing, those distinctive shell-shaped breaks that curve smoothly. The edges of broken obsidian are sharp enough to cut paper, sharper than surgical steel. Obsidian has a hardness of 5 to 5.5 on the Mohs scale, noticeably softer than quartz. It won't scratch glass but will be scratched by a steel file. The specific gravity is relatively low at 2.3 to 2.4, making it lighter than most gemstones. When you hold obsidian up to bright light, quality pieces show transparency at the thin edges, revealing that deep, smoky translucence. Here's what separates real obsidian from black glass or slag. Natural obsidian shows flow banding, subtle variations in color that swirl through the material like smoke frozen in time. Man-made glass appears uniformly black throughout. Additionally, obsidian breaks with those perfect conchoidal fractures every single time, while manufactured glass shows irregular breaking patterns. The luster is vitreous, glassy and brilliant, immediately noticeable even on weathered specimens. Unlike black chert or basalt that beginners confuse with obsidian, true volcanic glass has that unmistakable mirror-like shine. The surface reflects like polished glass, not the dull or waxy luster of other black stones. Stone 4. Green Aventurine, the Opportunity Stone. Green Aventurine has been called the Stone of Opportunity across Asian cultures, believed to attract luck, prosperity, and favorable circumstances. Tibetan healers used it to improve creativity and perception, while Italian traditions linked it to attracting wealth. In the field, you're identifying a variety of quartz containing fuchsite, a chromium-rich mica that creates that characteristic green color and subtle shimmer. The stone appears medium to dark green with a slightly translucent quality. The critical identifier is that aventurescence, a sparkly, glittery effect caused by mica platelets reflecting light within the stone. Green Aventurine has quartz hardness of 7 on the Mohs scale, meaning it easily scratches glass and steel files. The specific gravity ranges from 2.64 to 2.69, typical for quartz varieties. When you examine the stone closely, you'll see tiny reflective platelets distributed throughout the green matrix, creating that signature sparkle. The telltale sign separating aventurine from similar green stones like jade or green quartzite is that aventurescence. Rotate the stone under light and watch for those tiny flashes from the mica inclusions. No other green stone produces exactly this effect. The sparkle is subtle, not the obvious glitter of goldstone or manufactured materials, but a gentle, natural shimmer. Here's what most people miss. The best aventurine shows consistent color throughout with evenly distributed aventurescence. Lower quality specimens have uneven color, concentrated dark areas, or show white quartz bands running through them. The stone should be translucent when held to bright light, not transparent like glass, but allowing light to penetrate and glow. Stone 5. Jade, the Harmony Stone. Jade holds supreme importance in Chinese culture for over 5,000 years, symbolizing purity, harmony, and protection. Ancient Mesoamericans valued it more highly than gold, while Maori traditions consider jade sacred, connecting physical and spiritual realms. Here's the critical detail most beginners don't know. Jade actually refers to two completely different minerals, jadeite and nephrite. Jadeite is rarer and more valuable, ranging from white to deep imperial green. Nephrite appears in shades of green, white, yellow, and black. Both feel remarkably tough and solid. Jadeite has a hardness of 6.5 to 7, while nephrite measures 6 to 6.5 on the Mohs scale. The key identifier isn't hardness, it's that distinctive tough, fibrous structure that makes jade nearly impossible to break. You can scratch jade's surface, but you can't easily chip or shatter it. This toughness separates jade from every other green stone. When you find potential jade in the field, it appears as dense, smooth stones with a waxy to greasy luster. The color is typically uniform throughout, though nephrite often shows subtle modeling or variations. The specific gravity ranges from 2.90 to 3.38, making jade feel noticeably heavy for its size. The telltale test: tap 2 jade pieces together. They produce a distinctive musical, ringing sound, unlike the dull thud of most rocks. Scratch the surface with a steel file. Real jade takes significant pressure to scratch and produces fine, powdery residue rather than gouged lines. The feel is slightly waxy, never glassy or crystalline. Professional prospectors know that jade often appears in streams as smooth, rounded cobbles that look unremarkable. The surface weathering creates a dull skin hiding the true beauty beneath. That's why experienced hunters always carry a small grinding stone to expose a fresh surface for color evaluation. Stone 6. Malachite. The transformation. Stone malachite has been mined for over 4,000 years, used by Egyptians for jewelry and eye cosmetics, believed to protect against evil and bring transformation. Russian czars decorated entire rooms with malachite, considering it a stone of power and change. In the field, you're looking for vivid green stones with distinctive banding patterns, concentric circles, waves, or striations in varying shades of green from light to very dark. No other mineral produces these exact patterns. Malachite's copper carbonate composition creates that intense green color that remains stable and doesn't fade. The hardness is surprisingly low at 3.5 to 4 on the Mohs scale, softer than glass and easily scratched with a knife. This softness is actually a key identifier because most green stones are much harder. The specific gravity ranges from 3.6 to 4.0, making malachite feel heavy and dense compared to its size. The critical visual marker is that banding. Every piece of malachite shows layered patterns created as the mineral precipitated from copper-rich waters. These bands curve and swirl, creating those distinctive eye-like or peacock feather patterns. Unlike artificially banded stones, malachite's patterns are incredibly intricate with smooth gradations between color zones. Here's what separates real malachite from imitations. The surface has a silky to dull luster when unpolished, never glassy. When you scratch it with a copper penny, real malachite produces green powder. The stone effervesces, produces bubbles, when touched with dilute hydrochloric acid, though I only recommend this test if you're properly equipped. Malachite often appears near copper deposits, sometimes intermixed with azurite, chrysocolla, or cuprite. Fresh specimens might be coated with iron oxide or other minerals, but that distinctive green shows through at fracture surfaces. Stone 7. Garnet, the Vitality Stone. Garnet has been treasured for over 5,000 years as a stone bringing vitality, courage, and passion. Ancient warriors embedded garnets in shields and weapons for protection. Medieval travelers carried them as safeguards against accidents and disasters. In the field, you're identifying a group of silicate minerals that share similar crystal structures but vary in composition. The most common are pyrope, blood red, almandine, deep red-brown, and spessartine, orange-red. All garnets form distinctive 12-sided or 24-sided crystals when fully developed. Garnet hardness ranges from 6.5 to 7.5 on the Mohs scale depending on variety, hard enough to scratch glass. The specific gravity varies from 3.5 to 4.3, making garnets feel noticeably heavy. The key identifier is that vitreous luster, a glassy, brilliant shine even on weathered specimens. Here's the telltale sign. Garnets have high refractive index, meaning light bends dramatically when entering the stone. When you examine a garnet closely, you'll notice exceptional brilliance and fire. The stone seems to glow from within. This separates garnets from similar colored glass or synthetic materials that look flat by comparison. In natural settings, garnets often appear as individual crystals weathered free from metamorphic rocks like schist or gneiss. You'll find them as rounded grains in stream gravels, still showing remnants of their crystal faces. The crystals may be partially embedded in matrix rock with just part of the crystal exposed. The color is remarkably consistent throughout. No banding or zoning like many minerals. Hold a garnet to bright light and most varieties show some transparency, especially at the edges. Deep red varieties might appear nearly black until backlit. The luster never appears dull or earthy like iron oxides that can resemble dark garnets. Stone 8. Citrine, the abundance. Stone. Citrine has been called the merchant stone and success stone throughout history, believed to attract abundance, prosperity, and success. Ancient cultures associated its golden color with the sun's energy, bringing warmth, vitality, and fortune to its owner. Here's the critical detail. Natural citrine is actually quite rare. Most citrine on the market is heat-treated amethyst or smoky quartz turned yellow-orange through heating. Real natural citrine has a hardness of 7 on the Mohs scale, typical for quartz varieties, and specific gravity of 2.65. In the field, you're looking for yellow to golden-orange quartz crystals. Natural citrine displays pale to moderate yellow tones. Think champagne to honey yellow rather than the vivid orange or reddish orange of heat-treated material. The color comes from trace iron impurities in the crystal structure, creating soft, natural-looking golden hues. The telltale differences between natural and heat-treated citrine. Natural specimens show softer, more uniform coloration throughout the crystal. Heat-treated citrine often displays white bases with color concentrated at the tips, or shows distinct color zoning where heat penetrated irregularly. Natural citrine maintains clarity with that characteristic vitreous luster of quartz. When you find potential citrine, examine how the color distributes through the crystal. Natural specimens have consistent pale yellow throughout or gentle gradations from clear to yellow. The crystals form in typical quartz habits, 6-sided prisms terminated by pyramidal points. They may occur as single crystals, clusters, or massive formations. Here's what professional prospectors know. Citrine often occurs in the same geological environments as amethyst, in geodes, volcanic rock cavities, and hydrothermal veins. Sometimes you'll find citrine and amethyst together, or even bicolored crystals called Aventurine showing both purple and yellow zones. Stone 9. Pyrite, the manifestation. Stone pyrite, called fool's gold by prospectors, has been considered a stone of manifestation, protection, and attracting wealth in numerous cultures. Ancient civilizations used pyrite in mirrors and decorative objects, while Incan healers believed it reflected evil and danger away from its owner. In the field, you're identifying iron sulfide that forms distinctive cubic, pyritohedral, or octahedral crystals with metallic luster. The key identifier is that brassy yellow color, distinctly different from gold's softer buttery yellow. Pyrite's color has a slight greenish tint that gold never displays. Pyrite has a hardness of 6 to 6.5 on the Mohs scale, much harder than gold at 2.5 to 3. This is the critical test. Gold bends and dents when struck. Pyrite shatters or produces sparks. Strike pyrite with a steel file and you'll literally create sparks. That's where the name comes from. Greek pyre meaning fire. The specific gravity ranges from 4.95 to 5.10, making pyrite feel heavy but noticeably lighter than gold's 19.3. When you handle both metals, gold feels dramatically heavier for the same size. The crystal habits are diagnostic. Pyrite forms perfect cubes, pentagonal dodecahedrons, or octahedrons with striated faces. Gold forms irregular nuggets or dendritic patterns, never geometric crystals. Here's the telltale sign separating pyrite from gold. Scratch a piece across unglazed porcelain, the underside of a tile. Pyrite leaves a greenish-black or brownish-black streak. Gold always leaves a golden-yellow streak that matches its color. This streak test is definitive. The luster is brilliantly metallic when fresh, though pyrite tarnishes and oxidizes over time, developing iridescent coatings or dulling to darker colors. Fresh fracture surfaces reveal that characteristic pale brass yellow color. Unlike gold, which is malleable, pyrite is brittle and breaks with uneven, sharp-edged fractures. Stone 10. Lapis Lazuli, the wisdom stone. Lapis lazuli has been prized for over 6,000 years as a stone of wisdom, truth, and spiritual enlightenment. Ancient Egyptians reserved it for pharaohs and priests, while Babylonian and Assyrian civilizations considered it more precious than gold. Michelangelo ground lapis into ultramarine pigment for his finest paintings. In the field, you're identifying a rock, not a single mineral, composed primarily of lazurite with calcite, pyrite, and other minerals. The characteristic color is deep blue to violet blue with golden pyrite flecks scattered throughout. This combination is absolutely distinctive. No other material naturally occurs with exactly this appearance. Lapis lazuli has a hardness of 5 to 5.5 on the Mohs scale, noticeably softer than quartz. The specific gravity ranges from 2.7 to 2.9, typical for rock composed of multiple minerals. The key identifier is that intense ultramarine blue coloration that remains stable and doesn't fade with exposure. The telltale composition, quality lapis lazuli, shows deep blue with those characteristic pyrite inclusions creating golden sparkles throughout. Lower quality material contains more calcite, appearing as white streaks or patches that dilute the blue. The pyrite inclusions are actual metallic golden crystals, not just color. They reflect light with metallic luster. Here's what separates real lapis from imitations. Natural lapis lazuli has a slightly uneven texture due to its composite nature. It's made of intergrown minerals rather than uniform material. Dyed howlite or synthetic lapis appears too uniform, with color that looks artificial and flat. Real lapis has subtle color variations and depth that comes from the complex mixture of minerals. The luster is dull to greasy when unpolished, never glassy like glass or resin imitations. When you examine fresh lapis closely, you'll see the distinct mineral components: blue lazurite, white calcite veins, and metallic pyrite crystals. Stone 11. Carnelian, the motivation. Stone. Carnelian has been worn for over 4,000 years as a stone of courage, motivation, and creative power. Ancient Egyptians buried their dead with carnelian to protect souls in the afterlife. Islamic tradition considers it so significant that the Prophet Muhammad wore a carnelian ring. In the field, you're identifying a translucent variety of chalcedony, microcrystalline quartz colored orange to reddish-brown by iron oxide impurities. The color ranges from pale peachy orange to deep, almost blood red. The key identifier is that consistent warm coloration with translucency that allows light to glow through thin sections. Carnelian has a hardness of 7 on the Mohs scale, typical for quartz varieties. The specific gravity is approximately 2.60 to 2.64. The luster is waxy to vitreous, giving the stone a slightly soft appearance despite its hardness. Unlike transparent quartz, carnelian's microcrystalline structure creates that characteristic translucent quality. The telltale sign: hold carnelian to bright light and watch how it glows. The color should appear warm and saturated, with light penetrating through the stone. The coloration is typically uniform or shows subtle banding, never the sharp color changes of artificially dyed agate. Natural carnelian develops its color gradually through iron oxide permeating the chalcedony over geological time. Here's what separates natural carnelian from dyed agate. Natural carnelian shows cloudy inclusions and subtle color variations. Dyed agate has unnaturally intense color concentrated along fractures and banding. The dye follows pathways through the stone rather than distributing evenly. Natural carnelian's color looks organic, like it grew within the stone rather than being applied afterward. Stone 12. Turquoise, the healing stone. Turquoise has been considered a stone of healing, protection, and good fortune for over 7,000 years. Native American tribes treat it as sacred. Persian architects decorated mosques with it, believing turquoise could grant immunity from harm, and Tibetans consider it a stone that ensured prosperity. In the field, you're identifying copper aluminum phosphate that forms in arid regions where copper-bearing solutions permeate aluminous rocks. The characteristic color is sky blue to greenish blue, often with dark matrix patterns creating spiderweb or vein-like patterns. The name literally comes from Turkish stone because European crusaders first encountered it in Turkish markets. Turquoise has a hardness of 5 to 6 on the Mohs scale, relatively soft for a gemstone. The specific gravity ranges from 2.6 to 2.8. The luster is waxy to dull when unpolished, becoming more lustrous with polishing. The key identifier is that characteristic blue to blue-green color combined with porosity. Turquoise absorbs oils and liquids, which can darken or alter the color over time. The telltale characteristic is that matrix pattern. High-quality turquoise appears uniform blue without matrix, but most specimens show dark brown or black veins from the host rock creating distinctive patterns. These matrix patterns are completely natural and add character. They're not flaws, but evidence of genuine turquoise formation. Here's what professional prospectors know. Much turquoise on the market is stabilized, treated with resin to harden it, reconstructed, ground turquoise compressed with binding agents, or outright fake. Natural turquoise feels slightly chalky or porous. When you place a drop of water on porous natural turquoise, it absorbs quickly. Stabilized material doesn't absorb water, it beads on the surface. Stone 13. Moonstone, the intuition. Stone. Moonstone has been treasured for over 2,000 years as a stone of intuition, insight, and new beginnings. Roman naturalists believed it formed from solidified moonlight. Hindu mythology considers it sacred, formed from ethereal light of the moon. In the field, you're identifying feldspar that displays adulorescence, that distinctive internal glow that seems to float across the stone's surface like moonlight on water. This optical effect comes from light scattering between microscopic layers of different feldspar species that grew interlayered within the crystal. Moonstone has a hardness of 6 to 6.5 on the Mohs scale, typical for feldspar minerals. The specific gravity ranges from 2.56 to 2.59. The base color varies from colorless to white, gray, peach, or even greenish, but the defining characteristic is that floating blue or white glow, the adulorescence, visible when you rotate the stone under light. The telltale effect. When you tilt moonstone back and forth, a band or patch of light appears to float beneath the surface, moving as you change the viewing angle. This effect is completely different from surface shine or reflection. It's an internal phenomenon. The finest moonstones show bright blue adulorescence on near colorless backgrounds. Here's what separates genuine moonstone from lookalikes. Rainbow moonstone, actually labradorite, not true moonstone, displays multiple colors including blue, gold, and sometimes rainbow flashes. True moonstone shows primarily white or blue adulorescence. The effect should be subtle and mystical, not overly bright or artificial looking. Stone 14. Amethyst, the spiritual stone. Amethyst has been considered a stone of spirituality, contentment, and sobriety for millennia. The name comes from Greek amethystos, meaning not intoxicated. Ancient Greeks believed it prevented drunkenness. Catholic bishops wear amethyst rings symbolizing spiritual authority. In the field, you're identifying purple quartz colored by iron impurities that have been irradiated naturally. The color ranges from pale lilac to deep purple, sometimes showing color zoning with distinct bands of different purple intensities. The crystal structure is identical to clear quartz, six-sided prisms with pyramidal terminations. Amethyst has a hardness of 7 on the Mohs scale and specific gravity of 2.65, standard for quartz. The luster is vitreous, creating that characteristic glassy brilliance. The key identifier is the purple color combined with quartz crystal habits. Natural amethyst typically shows some color variation within individual crystals, darker purple at tips, fading to paler purple or clear at bases. The telltale characteristic: natural amethyst displays color zoning that follows the crystal's growth patterns. When you look at a crystal cluster, you'll see the color concentrates in certain areas, particularly at termination points. The purple has depth and complexity, not flat or uniformly distributed like glass or synthetic material. Here's what separates natural from synthetic amethyst. Natural specimens show color zoning, clarity variations, and occasional inclusions or fractures. Synthetic amethyst appears too perfect. Uniform color, no inclusions, absolutely clear. Additionally, natural amethyst often grows in geodes or cavities, with crystals pointing inward. The outer surface of the cavity is typically agate, with amethyst crystals lining the interior. Stone 15. Rose quartz, the love stone. Rose quartz has been considered a stone of unconditional love, emotional healing, and attracting romance throughout history. Ancient Egyptians believed it prevented aging. Greek and Roman civilizations used it in love talismans. In the field, you're identifying pink quartz colored by microscopic fibrous inclusions of a borosilicate mineral. Unlike most quartz varieties that form perfect crystals, rose quartz typically occurs in massive formations, large chunks without distinct crystal faces. This is actually one of its identifying characteristics. Rose quartz has a hardness of 7 on the Mohs scale and specific gravity of 2.65. The color ranges from very pale pink, almost colorless, to medium-deep rose pink. The key identifier is that soft, slightly cloudy appearance. Rose quartz is rarely completely transparent. Instead, it has a translucent, milky quality that gives it that romantic, soft glow. The telltale characteristic. The pink color is evenly distributed throughout, though it may fade with prolonged sun exposure. Natural rose quartz has a subtle, gentle color, never hot pink or artificial looking. When you hold it to light, the translucency allows light to filter through with that characteristic rosy glow. Here's what professional prospectors know. Occasionally, rose quartz develops asterism, a 6-rayed star effect visible when cabochon-cut stones are viewed under direct light.